you have a test today?
Reading 4, I Met You in a Story, Bob Jones University Press, 2nd edition. A Prayer for Rain by Rachel Larson. Illustrated by Mary Ann Lum.
The screen door banged behind Lori. "Bye, Aunt Irene," Lori called. She left the shade of the green-roofed veranda and squinted in the bright African sunlight. Shifting her book bag to her left hand, she adjusted her hat. The hat was too big and kept slipping down over her eyes. A low chuckle made Lori turn. Mackenzie, the African cook, was sweeping the veranda of the dormitory. He greeted Lori in the trade language of that part of Central Africa. Lori answered in the same language. Since her parents were missionaries here, Lori had learned to speak the trade language almost as soon as she had learned to speak English. She waved at Mackenzie. The brim of her hat slid back down over one eye. Mackenzie chuckled again. She knew what type of hat each child at the missionary school wore. He could not always see the children's faces as they walked the path to and from the school, but he recognized the hats bobbing above the high yellow grass. Miss Simpson knew each child by his hat, too. Miss Simpson taught at the school. The parents of her students worked in faraway areas with the tribes. The students lived in the school dormitory with house parents. They saw their parents only during Christmas and summer vacations. Miss Simpson and the house parents, nicknamed Aunt Irene and Uncle Dwight, tried to make the dormitory seem a little like home. Miss Simpson and the house parents treated birthdays with extra care. Aunt Irene always made homemade ice cream, and Miss Simpson made a special cake for each birthday child. Miss Simpson's notebook held all sorts of secret information about each child's birthday. Lori hurried down the path to school. Her 10th birthday was coming soon, and she had something important for Miss Simpson to add to her little notebook. Inside the schoolroom, Lori left her school bag and hat at her desk. Miss Simpson turned from the chalkboard and smiled. "Good morning, Lori. You're an early bird today." "Good morning, Miss Simpson. I came early so I could talk to you about my birthday." "Ah, you've decided what kind of cake you want." Miss Simpson reached for her little notebook. Miss Simpson could make a cake of almost any flavor or shape. She could decorate them, too. Elizabeth had asked for a Raggedy Ann cake. Jerry's cake had been round and decorated like a baseball. Each student told Miss Simpson what kind of cake he would like, and she always kept it a secret from the other children. If asked about the cake, she would only laugh and say, "I'll try my best to put the batter in the bucket and beat it hard. We'll only have to see how it comes out." Miss Simpson's finger ran down the listener book and stopped on Lori's name. 2 dates were written there. February 20th was the date Lori had been born. April 23rd was the date she had been saved. "Both dates are important to remember," Miss Simpson had said. "On the second date, your name was written down in heaven, and there was a celebration there." Looking up at Lori, she asked, "Now what kind of cake would you like?" One just like I had back in the States," Lori said. "It was a yellow cake, and it was shaped like a cone hat, really high, and it had fluffy white frosting." Miss Simpson wrote some notes beside Lori's name. This time she didn't joke about the batter bucket. Her face grew serious. "Lori, I'd like to make you a cake just like the one you had in America, but I don't know whether I can. You see, a yellow cake takes eggs. Frosting will take egg whites. Ice cream takes eggs, too." Lori's smile faded. She knew there had been no eggs lately. Mackenzie said the hens stopped laying during a drought, and little rain had fallen this season. At every service, the African pastor prayed for early rains for sun-parched land. Every night at dorm prayer time, Mackenzie asked the missionary children to pray for rain. Lori understood about the rain and the eggs, but she had forgotten that it took so many eggs to make a cake, frosting, and ice cream. Lori was quiet. thinking. Then she said, "I'll pray for rain. I'll pray 10 times a day. Then the hens will start laying and we'll have eggs." Miss Simpson put her arms around Lori and hugged her. Lori walked to her seat. Right then she prayed that God would send rain to make the hens lay eggs in time for her birthday party. Each time Uncle Dwight asked for the blessing before meals, she added her own silent prayer for cake and ice cream. When she had her devotions, she clung to every promise she found about answered prayer. And every day she asked McConsey if anyone had brought eggs to the dormitory to sell. The answer was always the same: no eggs. The last 2 days before her birthday, she did not ask. The morning of her birthday, she could hardly wait until supper. She knew that somehow her cake and ice cream would be there. She also knew that her parents had chosen presents through their furlough back in the States, wrapped them, and stored them here at school until this day. Supper seemed to take forever. Uncle Dwight chose a long chapter in the Bible for family devotions. Lori sighed when he asked an 8th grade boy to pray. The 8th graders always prayed twice as long as the younger boys. At last it was over. Miss Simpson left the room. The older girls cleared the table, resetting it with dessert plates and happy birthday napkins from America. A murmur of excitement rose from the other children. Lori held her breath. The double doors of the kitchen swung open. Miss Simpson entered, pushing a cart. Everyone clapped and sang happy birthday. Lori looked at the cart eagerly, but her smile froze on her face. The cake had 10 candles and was shaped like a hat, but it was not a high, fluffy cake. It was a dark, squashed-looking cake. And the ice cream that McConsey was scooping was orange and had ice crystals in it. It was sherbet, not ice cream. Make a wish, the children called. Lori fought back her tears and closed her eyes. She wished that she were back in America. Why didn't God let me have a special birthday, Lori thought. I prayed. Doesn't he care? Lori hardly heard Miss Simpson as she told the others, "You know we have no eggs, so I made a special cake for a special girl. Put some ingredients in and beat the batter bucket. This cake is called a crazy cake." It's crazy, all right, Lori thought. It looks weird. A crazy cake has vinegar and baking soda to make it rise, and it doesn't use any eggs. Miss Simpson went on, "McConsey used Jell-O to make orange sherbet. Wasn't God good to supply the things we need for our party?" A sour look covered Lori's face. Somehow she made it through the party, but she was quiet. She had to be reminded to thank 2 of your classmates for their gifts. Finally, Miss Simpson looked over at Lori. "Let's go out on the veranda where it's cooler." Outside, Lori blurted out the whole story. She told Miss Simpson she had claimed the verse about God giving her the desires of her heart. "Lori," Miss Simpson said slowly, "sometimes God answers prayer with yes or no. But sometimes he says, wait. Can you think of any reason why God would want you to wait?" Lori shook her head. "Other people need rain too. The wells are almost dry. Did you pray that God would send rain to water McConsey's garden so that his family would have enough to eat? Did you pray for rain that some African family would not starve before they heard the gospel?" Slowly, Lori shook her head again. "I was just thinking about my party." The thought of McConsey's withered garden shocked her. Other gardens must look the same. She had prayed only for herself. "Miss Simpson, do you think the people will starve?" "Maybe we'd better pray again," Miss Simpson said. Lori's voice shook as she asked God to send rain so McConsey and the other Africans would have enough to eat. She looked up at Miss Simpson. "Thank you for making me a hat cake." Then she hurried off to thank McConsey for the orange ice. Weeks went by. Every night, Lori was the first to request prayer for rain for crops. And now she meant it. One afternoon, the sky darkened. "It's going to rain," the children shouted. "Now settle down," Miss Simpson was smiling. "We have some praying to do." Drops rattled, then drummed on the school's tin roof. They all thanked God for his life-giving rain. On April 22nd, the girls found their notes on their desks signed by Miss Simpson and Miss Dean, the senior missionary. They had been invited to Miss Dean's home for a tea party. Miss Dean had served the Lord in Africa for almost 40 years. She had many pretty bone china cup. Having tea with her always made the girls feel grown up. Next afternoon, the girls walked to Miss Dean's house. Whiskers of fine green grass covered the hill, and new growth sprouted from the trees. The long, dry season was over at last. Miss Dean's table was set with a fine cloth and beautiful cups. In the middle of the table was a high, white, frosted hat cake. In pink frosting on the hat brim were Laurie's name and the words, "Saved, April 23rd." Miss Simpson said, "Girls, we don't usually celebrate spiritual birthdays with a party, but 2 days ago an African woman brought 6 eggs to the dorm to sell. This morning someone brought 5 eggs. Miss Dean and I decided to use them for something special." McConsey came in, holding an ice cream freezer. Laurie watched in wonder as he dipped creamy vanilla ice cream into the little glass dishes. "Laurie," Miss Simpson said gently, "will you read a verse for us and lead in prayer?" Laurie swallowed the big lump in her throat. "Psalm 37:4, she said, "Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee desires of thine heart."